Welcome back. Some students are sharing their thoughts about America's founding fathers, and they're not exactly being praised. Listen to this.
Do you agree, disagree? Do you think the founding fathers are more villains or heroes?
They were kind of the foundation of this country, I guess, and getting everything started, but most of them were racist, so they owned slaves and stuff like that. So
I would say yes and no. I think it's new times now, so we now have to make up new things. So I would say villains, yeah.
I mean, they accomplished a lot of things, but a lot of them were not very good.
Villains? They own slaves.
Now, these students' opinions, they seem to be reflective of a new poll showing 31% of Americans under the age of 30, they describe the country's founders as villains. It's 25% higher compared to those over the age of 65. Joining us to discuss, Eduardo Neret, the digital reporter at Campus Reform, and you saw him in the video there. He was wearing a mask and standing 6 feet apart, which we appreciate so much. Eduardo, what do you believe has really led to this feeling among these college students that America's founding fathers did more harm than they did good?
Well, it's a couple things. And like you said, younger Americans are more likely than any other age group to think this way. And with all the protests we've seen in the last few weeks with the movement to take down statues and change building names, it wasn't so surprising to see a lot of them say that they were villains. But the sad part is a lot of these students aren't able to view our founding fathers holistically. So they talk about things like slavery, but then in the video I said, is there any good that you think the founding fathers did? Are they responsible for any good things in our country? Yeah. And the students couldn't say anything. And it's pretty sad for the future.
I think we might have that moment, actually. I hate to interrupt you, but I want to get to that. We'll see if we can roll that. Again, what they had to say if you asked if there were any positives about our nation's founders.
Can you think of a good thing that the founding fathers did?
No, I'm sorry. No. I'm sure, but that's all I'm going to say. Again, I'm not the best at history.
Can you guys think of anything good that they did at all?
Good. No, I can't think of nothing.
No, I can't think of nothing either, though.
We're in a free country for the most part right now.
A final answer there, free country for the most part. Anyway, Eduardo, your reaction to hearing that?
At least there was one. And what I have to say is that the Leadership Institute's campus reform, we've noticed that this trend is happening on college campuses too. It's a failure of our education system when students are only getting one side of our history. We want our students as the future generation of our country to be able to look at things holistically. We want them to be able to say, we understand slavery, we recognize slavery, but our founders also created a place where we are today. America is a noble country. We have done so much good, not only here, but in the rest of the world. But the fact that these students can't realize that, again, speaks to a failure of how we are educating our children. Just a couple other examples, over recent weeks at George Washington University, students knocked down a bust of George Washington. At the University of Wisconsin-Madison, there's a petition that's been started by students to take down an Abraham Lincoln statue. So when you see this happening on campuses, when you look at what's happened in the news over the last few weeks, this is where students are getting those ideas and that message.
Well, some of those students, they would have to change the names of their universities they attend if they were to really go all the way. It's unbelievable that we are seeing this all play out. And like you say, it's kind of this one-side perspective that's being taught, which, you're missing out so much more when you only present one side of the story. And the history, it's being lost on these students. Eduardo, I want to talk to you about these presidential debates. They're scheduled, one at Notre Dame. They ended up backing out of hosting the first presidential debate. It was for the end of September. The school says a lack of student attendance and coronavirus concerns as their reasons for canceling the event. What do you think about that? Was that the right move from the school? Let's assume that the debates still happen, at least in some other place.
Look, I think it was. I think Notre Dame deserves some credit. Their decision is to be expected because what they're saying is, being in South Bend, being in a small town, the debate is going to invite people from across the country, whether you're a political activist, members of the media have to attend the debate. There are, of course, the debate attendees. And Notre Dame is one of the few schools out there, one of the few major institutions that are saying, we want to open in the fall. So the message that they're sending is that they are taking the safety and the health of their students as the first priority. They have said, we are an educational institution. And while, a presidential debate would be nice, this is what we're going to focus on. And so I think that's encouraging. We want schools to focus on educating first. If they have to do certain things and forego certain extra activities to reopen and reopen safely, we should be praising them for doing that decision. So in a perfect world, they would be able to host a debate. But again, just because of all the people it would invite and the fact that it would bring maybe people into the community who pose a coronavirus risk, it's just not the best time right now. And so Notre Dame has recognized that, and it's a good move for them and their students and their community.
Fair enough. And as you say, they're one of the few potentially that could be trying to actually get students back in the classroom for campus, for school come fall. Eduardo, do you think we could see this trend for the other remaining presidential debates?
I think it's certainly possible. I think it depends what those situations are in those cities where those campuses lie. But at the end of the day, we can't really blame schools if they want to say, hey, you know, our focus right now is on reopening. That is our first priority. That is our first responsibility to our students. And so in that sense, again, it would be disappointing if some of these schools couldn't host those debates. But given the current climate, given the fact that a lot of students want to get back to campus, you understand the decision. You look at it and you say, you know, it does make sense.
Right. And we are hoping that these debates take place. We know how familiar everyone is with Zoom at this point, so we can do it virtually. We just want to make sure it happens. And students, of course, can be tuning in and maybe submitting their questions virtually. Eduardo Neret, thanks for coming on today. We always appreciate your reporting. Great videos that you do. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it.